far as the fact of the day that he quote unquote bullied a student in high school.
Yeah, that's not.
What does that have to do with anything important in life? You know, this is social studies. Why not? You know, why not the fact of the day be that the president, you know, got inaugurated in 2009?
Right. Yeah. Even she could have put, you know, that, you know, political slander is, you know, a constant epidemic in the, you know, politics or in an election or what have you, and that would have been more appropriate and probably would have gotten more actual intellectual discussion rather than just picking out somebody because she didn't have anything else to say, I guess, for the topic of the day.
Apparently not. Apparently not. You finna say something, Jeremy?
I don't know. I was just agreeing with y'all. I mean, it's really just silly. When you arguing with somebody, like she said, that doesn't even do his work.
You
like,
know he's a bad student.
I know. What's the conversation about? Like, you getting like heated, like you talk to somebody grown that pay taxes, who can actually vote.
Exactly. Right. And then that he had his phone. I mean, I'm a former teacher, so he had his phone on in the classroom.
In the classroom.
Bothers me because
Right.
I'm like, well, how did she even let him still have his phone on in the classroom?
As a matter of fact, if you keep listening, at one point the students are cursing at one another as it relates to some of the topics, and it's just like, what?
Right.
Like, what is wrong with this teacher? You know, and again, you know, you love your president, and that's fine. But you know, the high school classroom is not the time to express those opinions. It's not the time. If anything, you should be wanting to encourage students to learn more about who the candidates are, or at least about the process or something to that nature. But expressing your political opinion, you know, it's just not the time and the place. 407-894-1680, 407-894-1680. I just had to talk about that for a second. It just blew my mind to see that was the kind of thing going on in a particular classroom. Really?
But you know, it's common. I mean, after I stopped teaching to finish my counseling career, I had started subbing to finish school and what have you. And I would go into these classrooms and they would just be like, oh, well, our teacher let us do this. Our teacher let us do whatever. I can go to sleep because our teacher let us. And I'm like, what kind of teacher is? And sometimes, you know, they'll just tell you whatever because you're the substitute.
You the sub.
I'm like, no, you're not going to sleep in here. I'm not having that. But they would, you know, even as right, they be trying. But, you know, just even as going into other classrooms, they would just have just disarray in the classroom, and especially with the large classroom, you know, sizes that they have, especially in high school, 38, 40 students in just one class, that it's incredible, the position that our teachers are in now.
Shout out to all the teachers out there.
Yes.
Just pats on the back. Y'all don't get enough credit.
Yes.
A round of applause. Like everything, really.
So y'all, they got to be more prayed up than anybody.
Everybody. Oh,
yes.
what?
Yes.
And then clearly, for things like this is a prime example of what they're facing.
Right.
Here you have a student who purposely is setting her up, and now this lady is suspended, fortunately with pay, but the fact that it has gone to this level where she is risking her job. Really? That's what they got to deal with today?
Yeah.
Well, in this case, let's be honest. She set herself up for this. Like I said, you don't have
a break.
You don't have those types of discussion with clearly what I would consider an ignorant student. You know what I'm saying? You don't have those types of discussion, and so for me, you know what I mean? You shut that down. You don't even allow that student. Well, you allow him to make his comment, and then as soon as he's done, you go thank you, and we move on. But you don't do the banter. You don't yell at him and tell him, you know, you can get arrested for disrespecting the president. I mean, it was like she was taking all her frustrations of the things that perhaps she's heard on television and was like, you know what? I'm gonna tell this student that he ain't gonna be disrespecting my president. Like, you ain't gonna be talking about my what?
Little boy.
Well, that's her professionalism. That's a little
right. Yeah, and like some of that comes in, I believe, with the proper training, how to really deal with kids.
Right.
Especially these days, you know, it's all this technology out. you don't know what they recording.
You don't.
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't know
Clearly
the
she
situation.
didn't know he was
Oh,
Right,
yeah.
you know, you don't know the situation she's in. You know, she might be at a somewhat influent school where she might feel a little disrespected, or you know how kids can be,
Mm-hmm.
You gotta definitely be.
especially kids that feel like they can do what they want to do.
Definitely. I hear your code, by the way.
Yeah, we try to be politically correct.
It can be trying.
I hear your code, by the way. But
I went to school here on the west of Orange County.
The West.
Yeah, the west of Orange County. So I know how it can be. I sat in the class with a few people.
Too funny. My man said. All right, we'll keep going here. We'll keep going. Another story that caught my attention the last couple of days. On Sunday, the mayor of Newark, Mayor Cory Booker, he made some comments on Meet the Press that has started this firestorm of backlash against his comments. It's led to the GOP taking his comments and creating their own little ad and so forth. So what did he say? So on Meet the Press, he was talking about the president, and for those that don't know, Cory Booker is I don't know the proper word, but let's just say he is one of those mayors who has a lot of access to the president and the president's campaign. They have him go out and they have him advocate on the president. That's the word I was looking for. Advocate on the president's behalf. Quite often. So obviously they trust him and they think he's a great. He's a Democrat. He's a black man as well, and so he's a great inspiration to kind of go out and speak the president's messages. And bring people. And as a matter of fact, he's even got a great reputation as far as the things that he's doing in Newark, and as far as making improvements. So he's got some clout, if you will. So he's on Meet the Press. This is one of the news shows that come on Sunday mornings. I know y'all getting ready for church, or you're at church, so you probably missed it. But
You're watching Bobby Jones.
You're watching Bobby Jones, exactly. But so he's on Meet the Press. And he makes a comment in reference to the president. And I don't want to read everything he says, but essentially what he said was he made some comments where he talked about positive things that the president was doing, and things that he believes the president has that are going to benefit the country more than Mitt Romney. And then by the end of that, though, he made a comment to say he thought it was nauseating to hear the president's campaign, anyway, use messages against Bain Capital, which is the company that Mitt Romney was the head of for a number of years, in attack ads. He also suggested that he thought using Reverend Jeremiah Wright in attack ads was nauseating as well. And his point was that none of these things matter in terms of issues that are going to affect Americans today. So why is the president's campaign harping on them? Why is, the GOP continually trying to talk about Jeremiah Wright? I mean, we're 4 years later as they see it. And he's saying, let's move on from these issues that don't matter and talk about real issues. So that was his comment, and so there's nothing negative, if you will, in my opinion, to his comments, because another thing he pointed out about Bain Capital is he was talking about his own state and how his own state, some of the pensions and the union funds are invested in companies like Bain Capital because they are successful, because they do make money, and so why are you criticizing these free market capitalist companies that are doing a lot to help other people in terms of their profits, helping support and fund these pension funds that are going to help ordinary people? He thought that's a message that we don't need. And so that was his comment, Now, I did a blog about this, blog on RealFamilyTalk.weebly.com. And I don't know where this is, okay? I wish I had Brother Rainey be in the house with me tonight. Maybe he can tell me where I could find this particular commandment. But he violated the thou shalt not talk about thou shalt not talk about a black president. That's the rule he violated. So I don't know where in the Bible. I don't know. Maybe Theo knows if it's in Romans. I don't know. But he violated that rule And so because of that, now he has got all kind of back. He's been on like 2 or 3 shows. He's backtracking. Well, I wasn't trying to say and blah, blah, blah. But the truth of the matter is, and this is why I respect what he said, is it's true. None of this stuff matters. Nobody cares that he was the head of Bain Capital. Yes, Bain Capital had some companies that they went in, they tried to restructure, and restructuring, they had to fire some people. Sometimes the company that they tried to restructure, it still failed, but if you can also look at their track record, right? Because Mitt Romney has worth over $200 million. So clearly they have a track record of being successful as well. So there's both ends of the spectrum. Not everything you do, not every business you start is going to be successful. But the failure is in quitting after it fails. That's the failure. The success is continuing on to find those gems, which clearly, Bain Capital has done. And so I agree. Talking about what has or didn't happen while he was there is a non-issue that has nothing to do with the economy, because Bain Capital is helping the economy. Has nothing to do with getting regular folks jobs or anything of that nature. It has nothing to do with healthcare. So why are we discussing it? And so from that perspective, I respect what Mayor Cory Booker said, and it's unfortunate that he's found himself having to backtrack simply because he spoke truth. Because as we know, no politician wants to hear the truth. They just want to hear what's going to help them win. 407-894-1680. 407-894-1680. You guys got any comments on that?
Here's the thing. Here's the problem with it. And I agreed with Mayor Cory Booker on we don't need to focus on the nonsense of this campaign, those type things. But why that's a problem is because the GOP used those words against him. They're now using what he said in ads against Obama. So the problem is when you talk ill about the president, they are going to take that and run with it. Any little thing you say, they're going to take, one of his people talking trash about him. Da, da, da. So that's why it's so important to try to stay on one accord. You can still criticize him respectfully, but especially now we're in the sensitive part of the election term. This is when things are really starting to grow. Anything said wrong can take it over the edge. But this is a prime example of why it's a problem and why it's not okay to break that commandment of thou shalt not speak ill about our black president.
Yeah. Not as a black person anyway. Black people can't do that.
Liberals can't do that. Democrats can't do that. Not right now. The playing field is it's a minefield right now. It's too sensitive.
I agree. I think that the timing, if he had said this maybe 2 or 3 years ago, it would have bypassed. Nobody really
2 or 3 years ago, this wouldn't even been important.
Right. So, but because of this period of time, that's why it's an issue. And so, if you're in the limelight, you got to stay a cheerleader. If you were brought on as a cheerleader, and that
was his place to be a cheerleader. So, don't do it. Don't do it, Cory.
He just should have just said the comments about the GOP and kept his mouth closed. But now he's having to deal with the repercussions because now he doesn't appear to be the cheerleader, and that was his purpose.
Yeah, right. And because the GOP is using his words against him. Mm-hmm. That's the problem.
But here's the thing. So you're suggesting, again, and again, RealFamilyTalk.weebly.com wrote a blog about this. It kind of goes back. I'll let my caller speak. How you doing, caller?
Hello, how are you this evening?
I'm doing all right. How are you? And what's your name, caller?
My name is Dinetta.
All right, Dinetta. What's your comment tonight?
My comment is twofold. First of all, I understand what was said, and what he said, I don't think he meant any harm, but I believe, and this is my opinion, in the process of all the presidents that we've had, there has not been a president so disrespected as President Obama by the black population. Most of us say Obama, and we'll call the rest of them Mr. President or President. And I've heard on even on 1680, sometimes how they disrespect him and saying things negatively about him when we were in like a recession 8 years ago, and there's always Mr. Bush, President Bush. We got to learn to have more respect for one another. And regardless if he does something wrong, you understand this is, especially Christians. I've heard a lot of Christians. We need to pray for President Obama. Even with the comment he made about the gay people, you know, the marriages of the gay people. You know, at one point he was not even for that. We know that's a political power, but we need to pray for him. We need to step aside and think about, you know, those that are our leaders. You know, the Word of God tells us to pray for our government. And President Obama needs prayer, a lot of prayer, because it has come to a point that I've even heard over the stations that even the announcers and stuff, black announcers, say things very negative about him. But what that does, it puts us in a plight that we are like crabs. Some of us not appreciate having a black president. And I think God put him in the position, but I think also that we as blacks, we got to come together and recognize that we got to have more respect for one another, not just President Obama, but we don't respect him enough. And we allow people to say any and everything about him. And, you know, because I'm going to give you an example. I heard some high school kids talking that, well, Obama is an end, you know, just like anybody else, and they don't respect him. And I know the children like that, but you know that word, end, think about it. That was a word that was plagued us, has plagued us for years.
Okay.
You may say it positively, but you know yourself, even I've heard on your station how sometimes, not saying you all, 'cause I don't know whether you all do, they have a comment or issue about President Obama. And what they say is things that are very negative towards him. There is some good in him, but he does need to be respected more by his race.
Okay.
By his people.
All right. We thank you for your comment tonight. I appreciate
and
that.
Thank you all for the program, and God bless you all.
God
Thank
bless
you. God bless you
Donna.
too. 407-894-1680, 407-894-1680. Well, I do appreciate you calling. I'm going to have to respectfully disagree, though, because I don't know of as a matter of fact, I don't know of any black folks on television or the radio that are talking bad about President Obama,
Tavis
with the
Smiley,
exception of Herman Cain,
Tavis,
you know,
Brother Tavis and Brother
Tavis
Cornell
Smiley,
West.
Cornell West. See, to me, I don't think those brothers are being disrespectful to the president. I think those brothers are stepping up and holding the president accountable for doing certain things. I think that's what they're doing. Because at the end of the day, just like, you know, Mayor Cory Booker, like I said, his comments were not meant in any way to be disrespectful to the president. He was just giving his opinion about how the campaign was being run, and even more in the interview, he even compared how the campaign's being running today compared to the campaign that he won in 2008, and how in 2008 he wasn't doing these kinds of negative attack ads against John McCain. That's not what he was doing in 2008. And so Cory Booker's like, hey, what you doing, man? You know what I'm saying? In 2008, you weren't doing this, you know, and now in 2012, you're all about negative campaigning. And he's like, you know, that's not what we need. That's not what got you to the presidency in 2008. And so that was his point. So in my opinion, you know, he's not talking bad about the president. You know what I'm saying? He's being critical of not even the president, about his campaign and the way the campaign is doing. Mm-hmm. So that, you know, yes, the president has influence, but he is not, you know, certainly there's other people in charge of that. And again, going back to the Tavis Smiley and Cornell West, they're not trying to talk bad about the president, but they do think the president should be, or at least on the forefront, or at least have an opinion about certain issues, and they are holding him just like they would do any other candidate to the fire to say these are the issues that you should be addressing that you aren't. Why aren't you addressing these issues? Which is no different from what they did when it was President Bush was in office, or any other president for that matter. That, you know, again, in my blog, RealFamilyTalk.weebly.com, that's another thing I mentioned. Again, we have as the black community right now, we have this unwritten invisible, magical commandment, thou shalt not speak ill of thy black president. You know what I'm saying? And so as a result, you know, black folks have just pretty much quietly shut up about any issues that we care about just to make sure that we're not giving anybody else some fuel to use against us, and then hopefully he'll get in office, and then I guess if he gets elected a second time, then maybe, I guess, then we'll talk. We're like, well, President, you could have did, no, that's too late at that point. Because if you're not going to hold my feet to the fire ever to address a certain issue, well, then I'm never going to address that issue. Why? Because I don't have to. It's no different with what you see in relationships. If your husband, man, or whatever goes out every Friday night with his homeboys and you never say anything, although it's a problem, guess what he going to do? He going to go out every Friday night with the homeboys and have fun.
If he's going out with his homeboys, you're going to address it with him and not everybody else in the community.
Thank you.
About
in
the
public.
issue. If you were supposed to be there with him.
I didn't know y'all had President Obama's phone number and could talk to him directly.
Yeah. Well, he is the chair.
Oh, yes.
I mean, he's a supporter
a brother, we're out
of Obama. I'm sure he has more connection than we do. And we can always write to the president. They always taught us.
We got a caller on the air. How you doing tonight, caller?
Oh, just fine, thank you.
Oh, your name, sir?
My name is Fred.
All right, Fred, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes, I think we as a black people need to be more politically aware about what's confronting us. And Obama is our president, true enough, but we have the impetus, to get out and define some issues of what we want, or where we want to go, or how we want things, And the thing is that people try to make our decisions for us, the media, the right-wingers and all that. They can't define our situation because they don't understand them anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
So what we have to do is we have to stand up just like they do on their talking points. We have to stand up on our talking point because, whether we know it or not, all these brothers and sisters right here that's not in tune to getting the issues and what the issues are about and getting registered to vote and make a difference at the poll, because if the right wingers get their way, if people think they're having a hard time now, they could just wait.
Speak on it.
I appreciate y'all taking my comments, and y'all doing just a fine job.
Well, thank you, Fred. We appreciate that.
Speak on it. That's the key, and especially last week, in the last couple of weeks, especially after the announcement with President Obama endorsing gay marriage and those things like that, and hearing our people talking about, no, I don't do him no more because of that. Wait, what? So what's the alternative? You just not going to do nothing at all and then let Romney get in office? You think it's bad now? You think it's bad now.
It's going to be better.
It's going to be worse. For you and me, it's going to be better for that 1% that occupied Wall Street that's going on. That 1%, they're going to be living 1%. It up.
Let's talk about the 1%.
1%.
Who has benefited the most from the last 3 to 4 years of the Obama presidency? Who has benefited the most? Who? Anybody?
He's cleaning up.
Who's benefited the most?
The man walked into a hot mess.
Who has benefited the most?
The 1%.
Thank you, the 1%. So we okay with him letting the 1% thrive.
No.
But let's not make sure Mitt Romney get in office, because then they really they've been thriving.
And
the stock market has rebounded by almost, I think, about 2,000 to 3,000 points. Who owns money in the stock market? The 1%. They have made a killing on the stock market. When President Obama first got into office, you look at a company like Bank of America, the stock was trading around $2 a share. They're up to like $32 to $35 the last time I saw. So what are we talking about?
We are talking about a man
we're not benefiting from President Obama's
not yet. The
but
policies,
in 4 more years,
we
gonna be
he
rolling.
Will do right now are making a trend. Just how it took all this mess to go down with Bush. That was 8 years. And we're still living on his stuff. Oh, caller.
We got a caller. How you doing tonight, caller? What's your name?
How you doing? My name is Jesse.
Oh, how you doing, Jesse?
It sounds to me, brother Real, that you have a problem with President Obama. Because,
yes.
I mean, from the time that I've been listening to the show, you've had plenty rants about the president. And I'd like to know, what is your problem personally with President Obama? Because he has an agenda that he has to run, that the council and everybody else that has to be approved before it gets to him. So what is your personal problem with President Obama? Thank you.
Jesse, I don't know if you really wanted to go there.
This will be real quick, Jesse.
We're going to be doing this for 15 minutes.
No, we're not. We're not going to do this for 15 minutes.
Jesse sounds almost like a king.
I know. He sounds so familiar.
Yes, he does,
voice,
Jesse. But it's like I've said this before. It's very simple. People talking about you benefiting, who's benefiting. At the end of the day, the only people that had truly benefited from this particular presidency, and when I say benefit, I don't mean that you got some extra benefits, so you were unemployed, and so now they help extend your unemployment for the last 2 years, and so now you got employed for 2 years instead of a year. That's not a benefit.
It's a benefit. You ain't got no job. You got a family to take care of.
Exactly. I was about to say that is a benefit.
That's not a benefit.
I know a whole lot of folks that benefited.
So to
I'm
me,
talking about people who was looking for work too.
Benefits means that you have somehow risen above where you were before. To me, that's benefit. And so from that perspective, there's only one group of people that has done that, and that is the 1% that Miss McCrae was just complaining about, and that the Occupy Wall Street is complaining about. Those are the individuals who have truly benefited from this particular administration. So there you go.
I disagree.
There you
go. At this point.
I disagree.
At this point, right.
There are, I know that there are plans to try to help. Right now, he got into office when the entire economy was just completely disheveled.
Hot mess.
So what can you do that's going to really immediately benefit every single person in the country? You're not going to just like you said with, is it Bancor? Bain Capital, excuse me. That, some people you're going to lose, some people they're going to have difficulty, some people it's not going to benefit. And so just like when you're trying to shift a entire nation in the opposite direction, it's not always going to be immediate, and it's not always going to benefit everybody at, the time that they may possibly need it, but it's making efforts towards a positive movement instead of going the opposite way and only thinking of just those that can benefit and doing what you can for your friends and your business buddies.
So next year, you guys,
not even
you guys
next
are going to be
year.
benefiting completely. Because of the administration.
Hold on.
Or is it the 2014?
No, for
15?
President Bush.
16?
You got jokes.
Just trying to figure it out. That's all.
What we are living in now took 8 years to happen. We are living in the Bush era's administration and dealing with those consequences. That's what we're living in right now. And it took 8 years for that to happen. So he walks into something that he's trying to rebuild and change some policies and change the way things are going. That's going to take some time, too. We're not going to see the benefits of that until the end of the term. But he needs the chance to get there to complete his job, what he's doing now. Because 4 years isn't going to be enough. Obviously, it's not enough.
No, 4 years is never enough to change a country. But what 4 years shows you, it shows you the idea, it shows you the mindset of a particular individual, and that's what we have seen, and that's what we've gotten a chance to see. We see his mindset, we see the ideas that he wants to put forth, and that we can judge to say, okay, we see where you're trying to go. And we can, respectfully disagree that that's the best way that to get there. And that's what we're talking about here. We're not talking, everybody's going to have a plan. Mitt Romney has plans. He has plans. But we at least know his plans. We have seen where his plans can take us, and we have enough information to say, you know what, I really don't like the idea or the perception that I see that these plans take us. And so if I don't like them, I choose to take a different route. You know what I'm saying? And I hope, anyway, I hope anyway, as a country, we can come together on this and find our new direction. That's all I'm saying.
But the alternative is, okay, so you did mention that it didn't take the whole 8 years for the United States to be in shambles. It may have taken 2 good years for Bush to mess it all up.
This has been in process since Bill Clinton. This is old. This has been in process since Bill Clinton.
Jesse is back.
Jesse is back. Jesse, how you doing, Jesse? What is your new comment?
Doing great. I'd like to say thank you, Miss Phyllis. I think you have a nice voice also.
Thank you.
Like a Delta. But, Brother J. Real, what do you feel Mitt Romney can actually do to make a change? Because, as Miss Phyllis gracefully said, it's going to take time. and you don't seem like you want to give Obama that time. And did you vote for Bush also, sir? Because it sounds like you voted for Bush.
Well, I'll answer the second question, and I'll come back to the first one. No, I did not vote for Bush. I thought Bush was a mess, and so no, I did not vote for him. But going back to your other point, again, we have seen the ideas that he has placed forth. Okay, and so what is Romney going to do? It's not so much that I believe Romney is the solution to America, because I don't. But you got to choose between two people. And so what I believe is that Romney's direction is at least going to take us in a slightly different direction from where the president's going to go. And I think long term that's going to be better. Okay. And that's my point. Because if you look at the president's plan, as he presents it anyway, and as I understand it when he talks to me, again, it sounds so much like he is using the federal government to help empower people to get them out of their situations. And when I think about the federal...
Isn't that the same thing that Bill Clinton did when he put a lot of government programs into play, such as the welfare, such as a lot of other programs?
Well, he didn't put welfare into place. As a matter of fact, he cut back on some of the funding for welfare when he was in office. So, but welfare was already there. They kind of just revamped it a little bit when he was in office, and it actually led to cuts because he was dealing with a Republican House and Senate during the time he was president. So he wasn't just spending. He had to make some cuts, and that's what he did. And so through those cuts, they rearranged how the program works. But yeah, that's the point. You know, there's a different way to do things. To me, the government has never empowered people. The government saves people, gives them a safety net, but it doesn't empower them. And it seems like the president thinks that it can, and I disagree with that. I see we have another caller, though. Caller, what's your name?
It's Fred calling back again. I like to add on to my comment I was made just previously.
All right, Fred, go ahead.
But my thing is this: we see the issues, and everybody now is so embarked on getting the country back together fiscally. You know, they saying, well, this needs to be done and that needs to be done. But well, let's put in mind how it got like that in the first place. It was because the poor people put it there.
No, it's the rich people that are doing that.
I don't
rich
know,
people in Congress.
I don't know your age. But you know, I look at through the years of how people like to point the fingers at the disadvantage. You know, and true enough, yeah, it shouldn't be government that judge that, but then something has to be done for people in a civilized world, in one of the, they say, the greatest industrialized country in the world, and it's the only one that don't do anything for their people that much, you know. I mean, like, people talk about health care and all these things, and that's not a good idea. But what I look at is, I came up doing segregation, and in that segregation, it was like everything the government helped a lot of people that wasn't of color. It helped them along, and it was mandated by state laws in the South. But then when affirmative action come along, then it was a big problem with that, such a big problem with that, because, you know, they say, well, the government is making favors for people of color, but they didn't see it that way when the government was making things, you know, in their favor, doing discrimination in Jim Crow law days. Okay, so that goes on. So now we at this point now that now something has to be done. Something has to be done. But even what has to be done, it still got to be done in a way that's civilized, and it has to be, you know, because we could say we fiscal conservatives all we want, you know, and I think we could politicize anything we want. But just look at, if all the politicians gave up their perks, you know, their money, and because they're supposed to be civil servants, and all this money that they spend in Washington, how much you think that'll go toward reducing the debt.
See, Fred, that's my point here, Fred. That's my point in why we need changes, why we don't need an empowered federal government, because the federal government is way too it's way too big. And I just can't agree with the president who thinks that the federal government is not doing enough when it's the federal government itself that is helping to kind of bring us down. President Obama is getting about approximately $400,000 a year, which he didn't make the raise. President Bush made the raise. He was making $200,000. He thought that wasn't enough, so he gave himself a $200,000 raise that was approved by Congress. He's making this money, right? And he's one of the main people that talks about cutting back and making sacrifices. To me, one of the first sacrifices a president can make is cut his pay. Because at the end of the day, you don't pay for anything as president. You have $1 million budgets for entertainment. You have $1 million budgets to renovate the White House as you so desire. You have $1 million budgets once you leave the White House to move and get yourself settled and wherever you go. All of these things can be cut back. And it starts at the top, because the president isn't cutting what he's doing. Well, then the congressman who's only making, $170,000 or $80,000 a year is not going to want to cut back what he's doing. So lead from the top, and he's clearly not that guy, and not that Mitt Romney will be.
Thank you.
But you don't need to empower these people anymore when they aren't doing the right thing in the first place, which is why you need to cut back on different programs that they have, because they don't know how to manage this money. They don't know how to manage programs properly. They don't know how to manage the government properly. They can't even create budgets with each other. I mean, we don't need these people empowered.
Well, who controls the politics in America? It's the corporation. It's the people with the money, because that's where these lobbyists come from. Elections are all about money. Corporations can pump in all the kind of money they want and make things better for them. But you have to deal with the hand the way it's given to you. Now, and I agree with you, but it's ways that can be cut. But foreign policy. It's money can come from a lot of other places that can make up the war, but your own people, don't put your foot on your own people. It's just not going to work. Just not going to work. And we see that it's not that the government empowered, because see this political game is going to go on the way it is for years and years.
It is, Fred.
The people are not empowered to stop it.
Thank you, Fred.
We appreciate that, Fred. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
You can tell Fred old school, y'all. You can tell Fred old school. I don't know how old Fred is, but if Fred was younger than 50,
yeah, that's what I like about
I'd be surprised. But
that's what I like.
But I like that.
We need that old school mentality.
That old school mentality. You know what I'm saying? And I think I see Micah King is on the line. Micah King, how you doing tonight, Micah King?
How you doing, Brother Real? I like to agree with Fred. Fred is a very intelligent man, and Jesse was a very intelligent man also. But I feel that, it's going to come a time that as a people, we're going to have to actually overthrow the government, put new people in Congress, some new people in power, because they're just going to keep on putting the same old puppets in the president's chair.
Anarchy.
And that's what I see. An anarchy is exactly what we're going to have to end up doing, and that is what... what's it called that you were just talking about? They walking around. They was protesting against Occupy. There you go. That's what Occupy. Wall Street, Occupy Orange County was all about. That was the start of the anarchy, and that's going to be the only change that will be that will come to actually make a change. But a lot of people are scared of that. A lot of people don't know what could happen, and that's what their fear is. What would really go on if there was really an anarchy? They feel like it'd be chaos. But again, if you want a real change, you're going to have to get all these people out of Congress, and you're going to have to cut these lobbyists out. And that's what we're really going to have to do. But a lot of people are afraid of that. And because of that fear is why they will have all of these different barriers and challenges in the politics. But once we stop being afraid of an anarchy, I think that's the first step to making a change.
All right, that's conspiracy, brother. Y'all
Thank you,
just
Mr. King.
Y'all weren't
It
aware.
can be conspiracy, brother, but it's the truth. It's the truth.
Speak on it, Mike.
But yeah, you know, like I said, I'm sorry. Did any of y'all want to comment?
I kind of agree with the conspiracy brother to some degree. We got to let them know that we're not having it. Otherwise, they're going to do what they want to do and until we say something. And if it's supposed to be a democracy, the people need to let the governmental people know what we want instead of letting them just tell us what we're going to have.
And so speaking to that point, that goes back to one of the initial things that I said. You know, referencing Tavis Smiley and Brother Cornel West. You know what I'm saying? So we're talking about the people needing to speak up. But again, right now, we don't want to hear that.
But see,
we don't want to hear that.
But you know what?
It's
I would
like,
say this.
well, y'all
I would say
speak up
this.
when a white man get back in the office.
No, but but to me, they're not speaking against the system. They're speaking against him. See, it's one thing to speak against the system because we all know the system in itself is corrupt.
right.
But they're not even speaking against the system. They're speaking about him in particular, what he's not doing for us,
See,
if you want to call it.
that's
But I don't see a problem with them calling him out because I think they're addressing him and they're addressing the system. But again, I don't see a problem. You know, like I said, one of the things that I know black people across this country when they thought about having a black president in office, one of the things where they felt like is that their issues would be addressed. And I don't care if what side of the line you were on. I'm sure that was one of the main thoughts in your head. And so when you have that man in office, and yet he still doesn't seem to address your issues specifically, because it's something about black people that we felt like as a people we've been ignored by our own government. For a number of years, whether it's through slavery, civil rights, affirmative action. That's why we fought for those things, because we thought we were being ignored. And so to now get to that point where we have someone that looks like us in the office of the president, and to still be, in my opinion, ignored, you should call him out because it is his responsibility. Whether you think, you know, just like they said, well, it wasn't Martin, you know, some people say it wasn't Martin's responsibility to do what he did. But yes, it was, because somebody had to do it. And now he has that position. And so, yes, he needs to do it. He needs to address what black people are concerned about from the national platform so that so that others, I should say, can understand where we're coming from. Because at the moment, as usual, we just sound like we coming from the outside, and that's what we need to stop. That's what he needs to do because he has that platform. We gotta go, y'all. Never enough. You can follow us on Facebook, Real Family Talk, Twitter, Real Family Talk, and the website, realfamilytalk.weebly.com. Thank y'all for listening one more time. We will definitely see y'all again next week. Real Family Talk.
WOKB, Winter Garden, Orlando.